Uh, Just kind of want to give you a brief overview because you've heard about the Southern Center and the Lead Center, sort of this sort of nebulous idea. When we came up to the second part of these regional grants, there used to be a National Coordination Center. That went away, and then we had to draw straws for who was going to be the Lead Center. Originally thought we were going to arm wrestle for it, then after we got the budget, we figured, okay, we drew the short straw. But you're going to hear from the 4 regional centers, and the Lead Regional Center is really just embedded within the Southern Center. And our job is really just to kind of make sure that all the regional centers keep communicating with each other rather than working as silos. All 4 groups will get together and share the tasks that you're going to be hearing about. You just heard about the success stories. We want success stories from everybody, from around the country, so we can share back with our partners in Washington, D.C. to show the value and worth of this program so we can continue to get funding. And I heard some really great stories yesterday, so I'm going to echo what Ellen just said. I'm not going to go too much of this. Again, you just heard from the Western Center and their partnership. Oh, excuse me, you're going to hear about them next, but they'll tell you about their partnership or what's going on in the Western Center and what they're doing with add-ons and other supplemental materials. You just heard from Ellen in the North Central Center and the massive undertaking that they're doing with all curriculum and what has to happen there. And they have started the process. All 4 regional centers are going to partner with those folks up in the North Central to help kind of push and develop a system for anybody who's looking for those alt curriculums. We're here in the Northeast. Thank you, Chris and Elizabeth, for inviting us up here. This is a great event. Every time we go to one of these around the country, everybody in their region does it slightly differently, and this was a lot of fun. The big thing that the Northeast is doing is the clearinghouse. If you haven't contributed and/or signed up, I will advocate for them to please visit them today and sign up and get your account and start sharing materials. One of the key components of all these regional centers is we all are doing sort of great things around the country, and we need to share. Rather than duplicate efforts, it'd be really great if we had one great place to put all this stuff. And the folks here at the Northeast Center have developed that with the clearinghouse, and again, have branded it not as a regional center now, but it is truly a national effort, and we encourage everybody to submit ideas there as well. So the Southern Center, which is run by my, I jokingly call her my partner in grime, Michelle Daniluk, who normally attends these things. Michelle and the crew down in Florida, including folks like Caitlin Stull, who's hiding over there, Travis Chapin, Matt Krug, Renee Goodrich-Schneider. We make up a partnership of 22 institutions around the Southeast. We have 44 principal and co-investigators from Puerto Rico all the way out to Oklahoma. One of our main goals as one of the regional centers where, again, we have the clearinghouse here, the add-on, and the all curriculum at the other centers, was evaluation. To take all the forms that we keep pestering everybody to send in, collate that data so we can get some idea of the impact of this program, and then share it with those individuals. The previous iteration of these grants were completed, but we really didn't have a sense of what happened, how effective these programs were. So our lead evaluator, Dr. Amy Harder, and her crew prepared a retrospective study, which if anybody is interested, can be found on the Southern Center website, which is sc.ifas.ufl.edu. Just come and get me for that URL. And it really went back and contacted the awardees of all these grants and tried to get information to kind of summarize the impacts and outcomes of what happened in those first 3 years, because that information was never captured. Moving forward, all the projects that are being awarded from this year moving forward to the next 2 years are being captured now. So when you're being pestered to fill out those worksheets and evaluations, please fill them in. They get funneled to Amy and her crew, and again, we're making a master document that we can present to the folks at USTA to justify this program, to continue funding in this area. It is so important. So again, if I'm acting like I'm pleading or begging you, I am. Please do this. It makes a huge difference. We sort of have a merry-go-round of program leaders at the moment. Hopefully that will stop soon, and we'll have a a permanent leader, but eventually we're going to be asked to submit funding in another year and a half, and we hope to continue this program for the next 3 years. Just some of the things that we've done in the, at the Southern Center. If you look at the number of trainings, we do a ton of trainings. There's a big blank space for Oklahoma. Trust me, Oklahoma's training. They just haven't submitted their reports yet. We're getting on them. But if you look at the total number of individuals, we've had 1,400 persons trained, 77 individual PSA trainings, and 123 folks attending FSPCA with 7 total trainings in the area. We've also hosted other events like Train the Trainer, and I'll talk about the advanced PSA in just a second. But one of the key things that we're trying to track is what's actually happening on farm. Did you write or modify your plan? So of the attendees of the program, over 50% now have a plan that didn't have one before. Did they create or modify the food safety record keeping? Again, over 50%, in this case, 56% effective change. And again, those are the types of things that we're looking for. Institute different types of training for personal hygiene, other practices for on-farm monitoring. And again, you can kind of see some of the success here, 40 to 50, close to 50%. Training is one thing. Whether or not the folks on-farm are actually doing it is what we're really concerned about. Again, we can sit here and yap in front of everybody. If they're actually tuned in and listening, that's the big thing. We're trying to track that effective change. All those surveys help us do that. And again, as you can see from the numbers behind me, again, I think we're making some big impacts. We still have a ways to go, but again, I think we're making real impacts on the farm. Those evaluations on the pre and post test, obviously we'd love for people to leave the workshops with more knowledge than they had when they came in. Sometimes that's not always the case, but getting them to fill out these evaluations really tells us if we're doing a good job at the Southern Center, and basically around the nation. You can kind of see this is collated for all the 4 regions. If there's something we're not being effective at, and there are certain things we need to modify as far as how we do our training, how we deliver it, we need to know that so we can affect change. If we don't know what we're missing, we really can't affect change. So these evaluations were from the 2019 cohort, and again, you can see we have a fairly significant increase of knowledge across the board at all 4 regions. Another thing that the Southern Center is engaged in doing is the SHRIPS conference, and it's the Southern Region Integrated Product Safety Conference. I hate that acronym. It sounds like a plant disease. I keep trying to convince Michelle to change the name, but we're stuck with SHRIPS. This is our 2nd meeting that we've held in San Antonio this year. This is where we bring in not only folks from the Southern Center, but also the folks from NASDA, trying to get those 2 groups to communicate. We have the PSA, the FSPCA, but we also have the On-Farm Readiness Review, which is a separate program. So try to leverage those that funding and to bring those individual groups together, because the same folks who are doing the PSA training, or a lot of them are doing the On-Farm Readiness Review. This way we get both sets of regulators, both sets of trainers, all in the same room. And this is, again, the 2nd annual conference. And I'll just show you, we're already planning the 3rd one of these meetings in New Orleans. This year we had 119 attendees. And again, these are some of the participants, everybody from AFDO, NASDA, PSA, water treatment. A big part of this was the On-Farm Readiness Review. And was a fairly good success, which is why we're holding the 3rd one in New Orleans. We don't have an exact date. When we do, we'll send that out to everybody. But if anybody would love to attend, we'd love to have you in New Orleans for some good rice and beans. The other last event I want to talk about just briefly is the development of the advanced PSA training. Betsy and Gretchen alluded to that yesterday. The folks down in the Southern Center, along with PSA and a whole bunch of other people, got together and wanted to develop a training, because as we know, the PSA training is very rapid. You really can't go over all the nuances that you need to do in training. So we decided to say, okay, we're going to take that training, all the things that we think we missed, we're going to blow that up into a 3-day event with a lot of hands-on activity. And that's what we did. The first one we were just kind of winging it. Then we held the second one. But the first one in December went fairly well. It was a 3-day workshop. We put people through 3 torturous days, half death by PowerPoint, and the other half we actually got them outside in the fresh air in Florida. Because in the winter, you know, it's 80 degrees and you have to put on a sweater. As you can see, a nice wintry day in Florida here. But we try to hold the attendees to about 20 to 30 people, and that is about the max that we can run through. And we actually give them hands-on exercise rather than telling them, pull a water sample. We went out and actually pulled water samples. We talked about composting manure. Well, not only did we show them composting manure, they got to play with it. They got to handle it. They had to smell it. And really kind of get that visceral experience. And we found that they really engaged a lot better. 8 days sitting in front of a classroom listening to PowerPoints is, again, as I said here, giving a PowerPoint, can be a little bit torturous at times. And really giving these hands-on activities really reinforce that. We fixed what was broken from the first one. We had a second one in January. I think it went a lot better. I think since the Southern Center now has done 2, we're going to hand this off to the good folks up in upstate New York, and they can agree to run the third one. And I think they're threatening to plan one of those right now. This is our first class that we had. They're all smiling now. I think this was on day 2. There was less smiles on day 3. But again, really great event. I think we're moving forward in that area. But just in summary, the Southern Center, which includes the lead regional center, really the lead regional center, we're just sort of the communication conduit for all the 4 regional centers. The 4 regional centers are doing a great job. Bringing all 4 groups together rather than not duplicating effort is really what our role, or the LRCC's role is to really get these 4 wonderful groups working together on things like all curriculum, the clearinghouse, add-on materials that people can use, and again, allowing you to share your success stories. You just heard about sharing your success stories, in-depth reviews. We also have a sort of a mini review, so if you want to just send us a paragraph or 2 and a photo, we're going to be collecting these, hopefully posting them on the clearinghouse as well. Share your information. The folks over in Oregon and Washington State don't get to hear all the wonderful things that are happening on the East Coast. We'd love for them to hear about it. Again, I just heard some really cool stuff yesterday. As far as the SC, we're constantly training. We do about 40 or 50 events every single year. And Michelle and I have to flip coins of who doesn't get to go. But we really appreciate your time and the invite to come up here. Thanks.